It is Leading with the Helmet. I'm Danny. He's Goods. You can follow him on Twitter at fireNmiss. Follow me on Twitter at Danny Mata Jr. Thank you so much for making this part of your day, night, whatever it is. Great show for you today. In this particular episode, Le'Veon Bell might get traded. The Texans are all sorts of screwed up. My Super Bowl prediction is completely botched. And Drew Brees continues to be really, really, really good. But we begin today with this past Sunday, which was perhaps the most bizarre Sunday that we have had in recent memory. And not just because of the number of upsets, and there were many of them. It was how those upsets played out. And it started, of course, the beginning of the day with the worst team in football, the Buffalo Bills, savagely crushing your Minnesota Vikings, Goods. Can you explain what the hell that was about?
One, I'd like to say that wasn't my Minnesota Vikings. My Minnesota Vikings are, they're talented. What happened on Sunday wasn't my Minnesota Vikings. That was something else. And I would mostly attribute that to the O-line. Like, Cousins couldn't get comfortable. They had, 24 points in the first quarter, something stupid like that. And they let a young kid, he literally hurtled over Barr. I'm pretty sure Barr caught a lot of shit for that on the day they were reviewing tape. And then he just made guys look like they were standing still on the rushes, passing all. It was just, and then the turnovers on top of that from Cousins, it was just ugly, really, really fast.
Yeah, look, I told people, make no mistake, the Bills are bad. I think they're the worst team in the NFL. And I understand that there are winless teams. But I still think that those teams that are currently winless are going to finish with more wins than the Bills. I think the Bills are absolutely awful. What happened in that game with the Vikings was really shocking. And I think the most disturbing thing, if you're a Vikings fan, and it was something that we talked about during the offseason, protecting your investment. They went and got Kirk Cousins. They had to protect their investment. The offensive line still had some question marks on it. We really saw that against the Bills. Now they've got one of the best defensive fronts in the league. They're going to have to face them. And this is definitely one of the stranger situations I think that we've seen a team as good as the Vikings in. Are you concerned about that Rams game?
I mean, of course. I picked the Rams to be... I mean, potentially this is the NFC Championship right here. Let's see how that goes. I mean, last year, the Vikings beat them, 24-7? And they really shut down that offense. But since then, the Rams have added a couple defensive weapons, backfield and front seven. So this is a different team on defense. And, I mean, I was going to pick the Vikings to lose a stupid game. I just thought that game was going to be the Lions in Detroit. I did not think it was going to be the Bills in Minnesota. So I knew they were going to lose a horrible game. I think every team does. But I did not think it was going to be that one.
Yeah, it's the one thing when I think about like what happened this past week. I try to look at it and really look at the totality of the week, and it was just a weird one. And we knew it was going to be weird from the get-go when the Browns won a game. Sorry, but that's weird. The Browns don't win games very often.
So you're saying the Browns done put some kind of voodoo hex on the entire NFL Sunday?
I think it's possible, man. I really do. But not only did Minnesota get crushed by Buffalo, and I understand. Look, I know a lot of people liked Washington this year, and I get that, and I get it, and they are a good football team. I'm not suggesting otherwise, but I don't think anybody thought that they would rip the Packers limb from limb. And I understand the score was only 31-17. Anyone who watched that game knows it was way worse than that. So for me, that was surprising. And then also surprising, the Jaguars, a week after one of the biggest wins in franchise history, manhandling the Patriots, they look like the class of the AFC. They turn around, And I don't know if it's a hangover or what that was about. But they lay an egg against Tennessee. Jaguars lose at home 9-6 to the Titans. And then you have the Patriots just getting pummeled by the Lions. By the Lions team that, week one was right there with the Bills as far as worst teams in football. And as you and I talked about, I thought that was the worst performance of week one. And they came out and just absolutely manhandled the Patriots. And then perhaps the strangest thing that happened on Sunday was the Bears didn't lose, because that was looking iffy for a while against the Cardinals, who are also terrible. So for you, in your estimation, how much of what happened in Minnesota was one of the many strange eyebrow-raising things that happened on Sunday? It was one of those fluke Sundays that impacted everyone, and how much of that is there's some serious problems with this Vikings team?
Well, the Vikings have one severe issue. Well, they had two. I'm hoping Bailey fixes the special teams thing. But the other one has always been offensive line. If they can shore up that offensive line somehow, then, yeah, they're contenders at any level. And I believe that no matter who they play. I mean, and every team always has a bad week. That's just what I truly believe is they had a short week against the Rams, and they just looked ahead. And that is unfortunate, but it does happen in football a lot.
Yeah, and honestly, I can buy into that idea that they looked ahead of the Rams. They're playing a terrible Bills team. And I get it, and young teams have to learn to win like that, and I get that. But I think about Minnesota, they didn't look super inspiring against the 49ers. They tied a game they should have lost, and any other year, including last year, would have lost to the Vikings if not for these insane rules they have about hitting the quarterback. And they get roughed up by the Rams, by the Bills in their home field, and now we got the Rams. I start to wonder, when I look at the totality of everything, how good are the Vikings? And now I'm going to be clear about this. I think they're pretty good. You and I have had enough conversations outside of this show when I tell you I believe the Vikings are good, and I don't want to overreact to one game. And I do think they're going to play better tomorrow. I mean, at the time of this recording, it's Wednesday, but I think there are some serious things they have to get worked out, because if they don't get that offensive line short up, this could get ugly for them really fast.
Yeah, I think their biggest issue is just O-line. And plus, against the Bills, I mean, they were missing two pieces. They're missing Cook, their running back, and they were missing Griffin, their best rusher. And while they still should have won that game, I mean, those are two important pieces. Maybe Cook would have taken some pressure off of Cousins in the O-line. Griffin could have helped with, the quarterback jumping over linebackers' heads. That might have helped somewhat.
Yeah. Speaking of Everson Griffin, that's we're not sure. It doesn't look like. I don't know if they're going to have him against the Rams. He is being evaluated for his mental health. He jumped out of an ambulance on his way to be evaluated for his mental health, and you can only hope that guy is okay. Mental health is becoming a thing that people are talking about a lot more, these days, which is good. It's important, and Griffin, is having some issues, and I hope that guy's okay. But if he's out for any extended length of time, it really hurts this Vikings defense really badly.
Yeah, he had 13.5 sacks last year. I mean, he's the integral part and adds so much depth to this defensive line. And they're all so fresh because he takes a huge chunk of the snaps. But now without him there, then you got backup guys trying to eat up those chunks of snaps, and then they just get tired faster, and then they have to depend on the offense to eat up more minutes. Which, as you can see, can go to hell real fast if the O-line isn't up for the job.
Yeah, it's going to be it's really it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. Now, I'll say this, though. Embarrassing loss at home, a lot of times the thing you want the most is to get back on the field and start playing, and they're going to get that chance against the Rams. And I think it was an odd Sunday, and I'll tell you, they did a good job against Jared Goff last year. Now, the Rams offense looks insane, and Jared Goff looks fantastic right now. But this Vikings defense is what they do, and they got embarrassed a little bit, and we'll just kind of see. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Vikings came back and played much better against the Rams on Thursday. That's going to be a very interesting game to look at, and definitely one of the bigger games of the year. But moving on, the other strange things that happened on Sunday, and one of them is the Patriots. And this is a weird question because every year the Patriots get their butts kicked early in the year. Last year it was Kansas City on opening night, and a couple years before that, it was the Chiefs again, beat them I think like 42-14 on Monday Night Football. And people always wonder, are the Patriots done? Is this it? And they always come back. Well, they're 1-2. Their only win is against a winless Texans team by a touchdown. They got blown out by Jacksonville, blown out by the Lions. And Tom Brady's only getting older, and they don't look particularly in sync. Is there cause to be concerned, or is this just typical Patriots? You snooze on them, and then they go off again. What do you think?
Well, Edelman's suspended. Gordon is still, I don't know, he's doing drugs or he's injured or whatever he does. But I think once Brady gets weapons back, then he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I'm not. I wonder about that because he's still got guys like Gronk. He's still got guys like Chris Hogan. They've got a whole stable of running backs. That Lions game was really interesting. They really got dominated in that game in every facet. And I don't like to overreact because really the Patriots have burned a lot of us so many times. We thought, okay, all right, the dynasty's over, and then they come right back to the Patriots again. And maybe this year is the same thing. But I will tell you that I can't remember the last time they looked that bad in back-to-back weeks.
Well, the Jaguars is a unique team to look bad against because they have a great defense no matter who you are. But the Lions, that I didn't expect, especially a team that didn't have great pass rushing, to make Brady look that uncomfortable was confusing. Like the Jaguars,
right? And then you look,
sure,
right? And I think even more so than that, though, it's like you and I got on this show. We were expecting a blowout. We were right. We were just wrong about who was on the receiving end of it. It does feel weird for me to question the Patriots. It really does. But I do remember, and I'll say this, at some point, the bottom is going to fall out, and Tom Brady's not going to be Tom Brady anymore. That's going to happen. It's inevitable. Father Time is undefeated. It's going to happen. If it's happening now, I'll tell you, this year's Patriots team looks a little bit different to me in that I've never seen them get beat up back-to-back weeks. But I'm not going to jump off the wagon just because I just feel like they've earned the benefit of the doubt, and it would be unwise to jump off the bandwagon right now. But I think it's a legitimate question to ask if we're seeing the end of the Patriots, just because I really just can't remember the last time that they looked that bad in consecutive weeks. And with Brady's age and some of the turmoil we hear about in the locker room that's going on there, and he contemplated retirement over the offseason, it makes me wonder. It really does.
Yeah, it takes a lot more than 2 losses to not be good in the AFC. I think.
Look, look, dude. I'm totally with you. I get it. But I don't know. I definitely am concerned. With the Patriots, and maybe maybe they'll be fine. But they got Miami coming in this week, and I don't know what you think about Miami, but if you're Miami, this is the biggest game for that franchise in recent memory because they're 3-0, which nobody saw 3-0 coming. And Ryan Tannehill looks great, and to his credit, he looked pretty good before ripping his ACL, and he missed all of last season. He tried to rehab it because that was dumb. But now he's healthy, and he kind of looks like he's picked up right where he left off. He looks good, and the Dolphins' defense has been very quietly steady. What do you think about these Miami Dolphins at 3-0?
I think I haven't picked him yet, and that's really gone against me.
Do you anticipate picking them this week? I mean, that's the thing. We're talking about the Patriots here.
Well, regardless of the season, Dolphins always play the Pats tough. It's just a division rivalry thing that they've always been able to do. So they'll play them tough regardless.
Yeah, they beat them last year. I mean, it'll be it's going to be interesting because if the Dolphins win that game and they're 4-0, at some point we have to start taking the Dolphins seriously. And even at 1-3, I think a lot of people would still be hesitant to jump off the Patriots bandwagon. But I don't care who you are. If you're 1-3 and you're looking up at a 4-0 team, you are in a rough situation. You don't want to be 3 games back in the division a month in. So this is a big game for the Patriots. They tend to respond well in situations like this. But this is a big game for the Dolphins. I mean, I don't think any of – did you have them in 3-0? I don't know that I had them winning 3 or 4 games this season.
I thought they were going to be the worst team in football, to be honest.
You thought they were? Yeah, I wouldn't have argued too much with you.
I mean, they lost like 15 players in the offseason to various NFC teams. I thought they were going to suck, and then they're like, nah, we're just going to be undefeated. All right.
Yeah. You know what I thought was going to be good? The Texans.
Yeah, I thought that too. Those fuckers. I picked them every single week.
They're my Super Bowl pick, dude. They were my Super Bowl pick, dude. And again, I tell people, yes, I am in Houston. No, I'm not a Texans fan. They've been largely unwatchable most of my life. I'm not a Texans fan. But I looked at the team. I looked at the quarterback and the offense and what they did a year ago. And I looked at that defense and what they were capable of. And they got even better with, Tyrann Mathieu. And yet it just hasn't translated. And they go and they get beat by the Giants. And really the only positive thing you can say about the Texans is J.J. Watt had an insane game. I'm going to give you some numbers, Goods, because I don't know if you knew that. I didn't know this. This is insane. J.J. Watt against the Giants had 8 tackles, okay? And he had, I think he had 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble, and 4 quarterback pressures. It's the second time in his career that he's done that. He's the only player ever to do it twice. And this is after 2 really bad injury seasons. Now, I know you're not exactly the biggest connoisseur of the Texans, but I do know that you appreciate greatness as much as anyone. You see a game like that from J.J. Watt after the 2 years he's had struggling with injuries. What comes to mind for you?
That football is a team sport.
You think nothing at all.
No, because I've seen excellence at a single position, and I've seen, honestly, a single player is more likely to lose a game than they are to win a game, other than baseball. Baseball, if you get a perfect game from your pitcher, granted there's usually fielder help, but still.
Well, you can say it the other way, though. You can say it the other way, though. I mean, the Dodgers had the World Series won, and then Clayton Kershaw went out there and shit the bed.
That's
what
fact. I just said.
All right. Well,
single players are more likely to lose a game than they are to win a game.
But you also said
like a field goal kicker.
But you said except in baseball, though, too. So that's what I'm saying.
The point is, field goal kickers and things like this, they lose games a lot, but single great players and offense, defense, whatever. I mean, you've seen it. Like, how long did the Lions suck when they had Barry Sanders?
Most of those years, but he was always great.
I think all. Maybe like
no, they weren't. No, they
3 game
had a
stretch where they were good. One of the
they had a pretty good. No, they had a couple of seasons there where they were pretty decent. But I mean, they were never a contender. They never got close to winning a Super Bowl. They never got close to even getting there.
There's been a lot of phenomenal single efforts that amount to nothing because fact of the matter is it's a team game. And basketball, man, that is the biggest example right there. You can see a lot of Hall of Famers that are just on garbage teams that can't do squat. But football's another one. I mean, that's even deeper. It's twice as many players per side of the ball.
That's why I'm such a big proponent of guys like LeBron James, because you look at how terrible the Cleveland Cavaliers were this past year, and they were still in the NBA Finals. I mean, that guy has been playing 1-on-5 for a significant chunk of his career. And to me, he's the best player I've ever seen. I think that, Barry Sanders did actually make one NFC Championship game. I'll make that clear just to make sure that anyone that wants to stat check, because he did make one, but he never got close to winning a Super Bowl or even getting there outside of it, outside of like that. And really, the Lions were terrible, for basically all of his career, but he was great. I think of J.J. Watt. I think that you can make a legitimate argument he's the best defensive end of all time. And my primary reasoning for that is that he's a defensive end in a 3-4 defense, which means his job is to hold the line, right? Free things up the linebackers. He has two 20-sack seasons. Defensive ends in a 3-4 defense don't do that, let alone do it twice. He's put up numbers that most defensive ends have never put up ever, regardless of what kind of defense they're in. But especially in a 3-4, where he's seeing the number of double teams he is to put up the numbers that he has. I understand the Texans haven't won, and that people like cling to the past. They talk about guys like Reggie White and such. I get that, but you can't tell me that there's ever been a better player than J.J. Watt, even though the Texans haven't been good.
Well, when Reggie White was playing, their quarterbacks were a lot less mobile.
No, that's true. You're right. I mean, the age of quarterbacks running is different, and J.J. Watt is a freak athlete. That's the thing. I mean, he's one of those he's a new age defensive lineman. Back in the day, you wanted your defensive ends to be 320 pounds with a beer belly. Like J.J. Watt's 300 pounds, but that guy is just rock solid muscle. The game has turned into speed based, and for everything that I've seen in all the years I'm watching football, I've never seen a player as good as J.J. Watt when he's healthy.
Yeah, it's always the big if, though.
Yeah. But I love seeing that performance out of him, because it reminds you of what he's capable of. And to me, greatness should never be cut short because of injury. You only hope that greatness just, lasts as long as it can. And so I'm just happy to see JJ's, back. But the Texans are awful. And Bill O'Brien, I'll tell you, man, down here, they are calling for his head. They do not like that guy.
Isn't he asking fans why he's good or something?
Yeah, it's a lot of fans are not happy with him, and especially after a 4-12 season, he got a contract extension.
Really?
They had a lot of injuries last year, but I think that if the Texans don't make the playoffs this year, and if they're bad, like if they're not even 500, I think that there needs to be a serious evaluation, because with the talent they have on that roster, it's inexcusable for them to be 0-3.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I feel like I watch them, and I feel like every Texans fan hates the Cowboys, and I feel like I'm watching a version of the Cowboys. Jason Garrett for like years has held that team back, and the Cowboys are awful now, and they're about to get run off their own field by Detroit on Sunday. It's ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly. But I'll tell you one thing though, and we've been talking about greatness and all this other stuff. What was your reaction to? First of all, it's the game that nobody has been talking about, despite the fact that it's the best game of the season so far, I think. But how about like the Saints and the Falcons? I mean, first of all, this was an old-fashioned shootout. Drew Brees, Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan played the best game that he's played since his MVP season. He threw 5 touchdowns. And Drew Brees threw for just shy of 400 yards, 3 touchdowns in the air, and his old short ass is juking people out for 2 touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah, had that roll move over there.
Yeah, dude, I did not know. I absolutely did not know that Drew Brees had that in him, because I had never seen that. I didn't see that back when he was with the Chargers. He was young and spry. That was really impressive. What were your thoughts on that performance by Drew Brees in that game?
I tell you what, he's on my fantasy team, and I saw him do that roll move. First thing I went with in my head is like, oh shit, who's my backup? He just tore an ACL. I was like, oh, touchdown? No ACL? All right, good. he got enough points for starting quarterback and running back in the same game.
Yeah. I like how you have Drew Brees and Todd Gurley on the same team in our fantasy league. That makes you upset.
Well, that makes me first place out of 14 teams. So.
And it makes me upset. Well, I don't like the fact that you're in first place.
Just be glad you know me.
Yeah, well, I'm coming for you. I made a move today, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, you're definitely looking pretty good up there with Gurley and Breeze. But I've been saying for a long time that Drew Brees is one of the more underappreciated quarterbacks of my lifetime, and to see the performance that he had, the Saints have reverted back to what they were for a long time. They have absolutely no defense once again, but they got Drew Brees. And when you have Drew Brees and the other team doesn't, you are always in the game. And he is incredible. And so the question I was going there with this is, I started putting together a list of the best quarterbacks of all time. And I wanted to update this list because we talk about, it's one of those talks that people have a lot in bars, but we seldom ever really talk about those lists. So where does Drew Brees, if we put together a list right now with the list of the best quarterbacks ever, and I'll make a list and you can make a list. Let's just go 1 through 10 and let me see where you think Drew Brees is and where I think Drew Brees is. So for you, who's number 1 all time?
Okay. Do injuries apply at all?
That's an interesting qualifier. I'm glad you asked that question. Okay, so the question being that had the guy played a full career? Would things have changed? I'm going to say you should calculate. I think we should calculate a little bit of everything. I would say that if a guy played 10 years and got hurt for 3 or 4 other years, I wouldn't hold that against him because that still leaves a pretty good body of work.
Then probably Rodgers.
You put Rodgers at 1.
As the most... Man, him or Brady, that's hard.
I'm telling you right now that when I look at my top 4, you can make a legitimate case for any quarterback in there as the best quarterback of all time. And I have Rodgers in there. So...
Well, I'm trying to think most talented versus best. I mean, there's a difference.
But he put those two things together, though. So, because championships aren't the know-all, end-all when it comes to, when it comes to grading the best ever. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. You, as a Vikings fan, you've seen a lot of Aaron Rodgers. One thing I've always appreciated about you is your objectivity. Why Rodgers won?
Because he can make any defense look stupid. And he perceives the game at what seems like a much slower rate than everyone else, so he can just pick apart everybody. And he's mobile with just ridiculous accuracy. What was his MVP year? 43 touchdowns and 6 picks or something stupid?
Something is 45 and 6 if memory serves. Yeah, and honestly, I think about the years that he's had in Green Bay, and people forget, man, he made guys like Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, look at the year he's having in Oakland. His squat, except for one game.
Right, exactly. Now I don't understand that Jordy Nelson is older, but come on, people forget that when the Packers won that Super Bowl against the Steelers, their receivers were dropping passes left and right. Like Aaron Rodgers was the MVP of that game, threw 4 touchdowns, and anyone that remembers that game remembers that his receivers were dropping passes left and right. Like he made those guys. He made Jordy Nelson. He made Greg Jennings. He's making Devontae Adams. I agree with you, man. He makes throws that I've just never seen quarterbacks make. He's definitely probably the most accurate quarterback I have ever seen. And you're right about his ability to move around. People talk about championships. The guy's got a playoff loss where he threw 6 touchdown passes, and he was denied a trip to the Super Bowl because his team couldn't figure out how to recover an onside kick.
Yeah.
So, I'm just saying, when you have a loss where you threw for 6 touchdowns in a playoff game, and you have another loss because a guy didn't recover an onside kick when the game was already won, I'm just saying I can't list those as low marks on his resume.
Okay, so probably Rodgers, Brady, Manning. Who would be number 4?
So, okay, all right.
Maybe Montana had some good years. Aikman had good years.
Yeah, Montana had more than a couple of good years, but yeah.
I said some. I didn't specify a couple.
All right. He
4.
definitely had a few of them in there.
Very specifically 4, plus, some others. Aikman, 3, plus some others.
Yeah.
Just pull this out my ass. That's 5 pretty good ones right there.
So, I'm going to get a lot of heat for this list, I think, but I don't care. So, for me, I do have Brady at 1. And I only say that because, no, he's not the athlete that Aaron Rodgers is, but just the way that he throws the football is insane. And he's dragged a lot of really pitiful Patriots teams. Really like substandard teams. He won 3 Super Bowls when his best receiver was Troy Brown or Deion Branch, David Givens. These were like his starting players. And the one year they gave him like the big weapons, Moss and Welker, he set the touchdown record. He threw 50 touchdowns. He's got the arm strength. He's got that clutch factor. He just does it. And for me, I just, it's not just that he has 5 Super Bowls. It's that he's done most of it without having a particularly great supporting cast around him. He's had decent defenses, but he almost won a Super Bowl last year without a defense. It was the second time in his career that he almost won a Super Bowl by himself without a defense. So I think Brady's 1, and I think Joe Montana's 2, just because of all that he accomplished. And I would be lying if I said championships didn't come into the equation for me, even though I said that they're not the know-all, end-all. I'm not grading Montana on that either. But I do have Aaron Rodgers at 3. And I've got Peyton Manning at 4, and I've got Drew Brees 5.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with Drew Brees there. That guy, he does so much for any team. The Saints have changed his weapons all around him for his entire career, and it's never mattered. He's like 4,500 yards, 30 to 40 touchdowns every year. It's just consistent as hell.
The biggest travesty is the Saints wasted so many years where he was just outstanding because their defense was horrendous. And I feel like there's a danger of that happening this year. But he is just slinging it. And you put a guy like Alvin Kamara next to him, they're going to win a lot of shoot. I don't know. I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl because you've got to have a defense to win a Super Bowl. But I will tell you, they can make the playoffs simply because they have 2 guys that most people don't. And we just kind of saw that against the Falcons. If you get into a shootout with Drew Brees, it's never a good strategy.
No, not even for Matt Ryan.
Exactly. Exactly. And there are very few guys that can get into shootouts with Drew Brees and come away victorious. My thing is, when he retires, he may end up owning every passing record or every positive passing record there is, completions, which I think he's got now. And then yards, touchdowns. He's going to have every single one of those numbers, and he won't have the interceptions. He's throwing some picks, but he's not going to be a league leader in picks, right? So, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's going to retire with just about every significant passing stat you can think of. And he started playing after Peyton Manning. And I get that he's still playing and Manning's retired, but he was right on his tails before Manning retired. So, like, I don't know. I mean, especially the guy's only 6 feet tall. He's just he's insane. So here's where the list gets interesting. I think the top 5 is easier than the bottom 5 because when we get to the bottom one, I'm going to throw a name at you that I want you to think about. But if you're just going off the top of your head, and I'll help you out. Like I've got Steve Young 6, John Elway 7. Like I don't know who you have.
You got Montana and Young.
Look, again, championships are not the know-all, end-all. Steve Young was terrific in every sense of the word. He was terrific. His team wasn't always better than the Cowboys or the Packers. His team wasn't. But he was as good a quarterback as you were going to find. He could run. He could sling it. He was totally accurate. I mean, he put on 1994 was one of the most dominant seasons by a quarterback, in NFL history, especially at that time where you could mug wide receivers and they wouldn't throw a flag. I think Young's up there, way up there for me.
Who are the others?
I had John Elway 7.
That's hard to argue.
Okay. I won't put a guy like Aikman up there. I don't really think he was all that great. I'm not a big fan of the old school guys that played in the 40s and 50s. There's one exception, Johnny Unitas. I'll give him, I'll put him up there because he was one of those prolific passers. But people forget there was a thing with integration in the NFL as well, and passing offenses back then weren't what they are today. And, I'm just saying being the best player of your era doesn't make you one of the best players of all time. That's ridiculous. Don Hudson had a 17 touchdown, 1,200 yard season. He's a white guy for the Packers just running around people. You think Don Hudson would even make an NFL roster today? If he was magically back in his 20s, come on. He's running against slow defensive backs and primitive defenses. I always think that was crap. But I'll give Johnny Unitas the benefit of that.
Well, maybe steroids were a little different back then.
Yeah, maybe they were. So as we get on this list, people start expecting names like Jim Kelly, Dan Fouts. They expect names like that to pop up. So here's the name I'm going to throw at you. Top 10 quarterback of all time. And I just want you to just think about the numbers. And think about what you've seen. Ben Roethlisberger.
He loses a lot of games. I mean, look what he's doing right now. He's got one of the most talented offenses in football, and he can't win a game.
Yeah, but they've had way more good. They were in the AFC Championship game last year, right? I mean, they've had way more good seasons than bad ones. And
the team.
Right, but he's been a big part of that. If you look at – because here's the thing. He's got 2 rings. Only one of them do I really give the guy any real credit for. But look at the numbers that Ben Roethlisberger has for his career, because they're really they're astonishing. The guy's throwing for over 52,000 yards. He's throwing for 336 touchdowns. He's got a pass rating of 94. If you just look at the last few seasons, right? 4,200 yards, 28 touchdowns. 3,800 yards, 29 touchdowns. 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns. 4,900 yards, 32 touchdowns. 4,200, 28 touchdowns. He doesn't throw that many interceptions. He's had a few double-digit years in there, but he's not a turnover machine. And the Steelers have been pretty good for most of his career, and he's been a big part of that. At some point, we've got to start giving this guy some credit.
No, I would put a guy like Randall Cunningham above him. I feel like Randall Cunningham managed games and was a lot more diverse with a lot less than a Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that definitely didn't have the weapons, but Randall Cunningham top 10?
I'm not saying either of them should be top 10.
You wonder.
Like Cunningham, remember when he was with the Eagles, had 800 yards rushing? He was the original Vic.
Oh, he had some astounding seasons. He did. And but so did guys like Warren Moon. Like Warren Moon had a terrific, was a guy was aerial assault,
The Oilers.
All the time. Say what?
Houston Oilers.
The Oilers and the Vikings, and the guy got around a little bit, even in the CFL. But he threw for if you compare Warren Moon to Dan Fouts or guys like Dan Marino and all that, he does start to. I mean, he does match up pretty well. Because me, I've got Dan Marino as 8. I've got him ahead of Johnny Unitas. But my point being though that Dan Marino was a terrific thrower of the football. But we saw a lot of really prolific passers. And they did it in an age where, again, you could mug wide receivers. And I know Roethlisberger didn't, but some of the throws that he's made and some of the plays that he's made throughout his career have been very impressive. And I think the guy's got to start getting his due. And I appreciate the Randall Cunningham thing. I do. And I don't think you're wrong to like Cunningham and maybe even like him more than Big Ben. But I think that I don't know, man. I kind of have Ben in my top 10.
You kind of have him there?
I got him there. To me, he's 10. Brady, Montana, Rodgers, Manning, Breeze, Young, Elway, Marino, Unitas, and Roethlisberger. That's what I've got. I don't have Jim Kelly up there. And people get crazy about me all the time. Go look at the numbers they put up. They're not as insane as you think. Especially guys like Dan Fouts. Dan Fouts had a lot of really pedestrian seasons that he just teed off when he got to the Chargers, when he had Air Coryell going on there. But Dan Fouts wasn't a beast. But here's a question for you: where do you put Kurt Warner? Is Kurt Warner a top 10 quarterback? Because he put together 5 of the greatest seasons we've ever seen by a quarterback.
I don't even know if it's 5, but the years he was on. It was 2 or 3 with the Rams and a couple with the Cardinals. That dude was nuts.
Yeah. And I think about Kurt Warner, and him and Marshall Faulk made up maybe the best quarterback running back tandem that we've seen in the last 2 decades. We have a chance to see that again because, as we mentioned in the show, Le'Veon Bell's in the trading block, and the Packers are a team that I think should move the mountains and do whatever they have to do to get this guy. Whatever gymnastics they have to do to get him, they need to do it. Because I think of a guy like Aaron Rodgers and I think of Le'Veon Bell and those 2 guys together, and I don't know how that offense is defensible because they've got terrific perimeter weapons, excellent offensive line. Le'Veon Bell will never see an 8-man front. He won't see 7-man fronts too often because of the threat.
Would you give up 2 first rounds?
Look, 2 first rounders. It depends. You know what? I'll tell you one thing. If I were the Packers, I would, and this is why. Aaron Rodgers in his mid-30s. He has had injury. He just missed a whole season last year with a broken collarbone. How many years do you think you've got left of him? Those first rounders, you don't know what you're going to get. Le'Veon Bell, you know what you are. And if you win just 1 championship as a result of trading 2 first rounders to get Le'Veon Bell, then you've already succeeded because you would have drafted those first rounders to help you win championships. If Le'Veon Bell can do that, I don't think it's going to cost them 2 first rounders though.
How about 2 first rounders and Devontae Adams for Schuster and Bell?
Yeah, I mean, 2 first-rounders and Devontae Adams for Schuster and Bell. I'm not really sure why the Steelers would make a deal like that. I'm serious. Like, I don't know.
Impressive this year.
Like, I'm just saying. I mean, like,
he's got 300-yard games this season. He's been crazy. Second year.
How much of an upgrade do you think that Devontae Adams is over Juju Smith-Schuster?
None.
Are you even sure there is an upgrade? Yeah, I don't even know why that would even come into the equation.
Just throwing shit out there.
Yeah. I think whatever the Packers have to do to get him, they've got to do it. And there's some financial situations that, that come into play here, with the amount of money he would be looking to make and what they can pay him. But, like, the guy's not going to play for the Steelers anymore. And there's not a lot of leverage there for Pittsburgh. I mean, the best thing you've got going for you is you're going to have a lot of teams vying for his services. But if you think about it honestly, why would the Steelers trade him to an AFC team? Like, I really think about it. Like, why would they do that?
More picks.
Again, Ben Roethlisberger is getting older. The Steelers just went to the AFC Championship game, so they have to still think that they're pretty good, and they have to still be thinking about things like championships. Why would you trade Le'Veon Bell to the AFC when you're going to have to play against him? Why would you do that?
The reasons you just said. Everyone's getting older. Time to rebuild.
Yeah, but that time isn't now. If you make that decision right now, then what is Ben Roethlisberger there for? Why is Antonio Brown there if you're rebuilding now?
You just put Roethlisberger at number 10 on your all-time list. If he can't throw to Antonio Brown and Schuster and Connor, he doesn't deserve to be at 10.
No, I understand that. But what I'm telling you is he's not out there. He's not the guy who has to go out and defend Le'Veon Bell. Like, why would the Steelers trade him to a team that they might have to play against in the playoffs? Like, it would seem that, like, to me, trading him to an NFC team would make way more sense because there's no guarantee you'll ever see the guy. So if you're the Packers, you know that you'll probably at least be able to get him on the phone. And I think that whatever they have to do to get him, they should do it because that offense is unstoppable. With an offensive line as good as they have, and again, he'll never see an 8-man front ever. And he can catch. Remember, Le'Veon Bell was almost the 3rd running back ever to have a 1,000-yard rushing and receiving season in the same year. Only 2 players have ever done that. And he was almost the 3rd. He narrowly missed it. You're talking about one of the best pass-catching backs. So you're giving Aaron Rodgers yet another weapon. Like, how exactly would you defend that offense?
By breaking Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, pretty much that. Yeah, you would need to hurt somebody. That's what I'm saying. If I'm the Packers, I'm doing it. Especially where Aaron Rodgers is in his career. And I think that it makes a lot of sense for the Steelers to trade him to an NFC team. You're not going to trade him to you don't want to trade him to a team that you're going to have to play. That's just me. But where would that put the Packers for you in your estimation if they were to land Le'Veon Bell?
Depends what they gave up. I mean, if it
let's
was
just say it's all draft picks.
Then I mean, yeah, obviously their offense has improved. Rodgers has been known to be stopped. He can be, well, maybe not stopped, but controlled. And Le'Veon, same thing. I think an elite defense and an offense that can at least somewhat hang with their scoring capabilities, they can beat that team. But there's very few in the NFC that can do that.
I don't know
the potential to do that.
I don't know if there's any. I mean, with the rules the way they are right now, that just forget the whole roughing the passer penalty. You can't put your hands on a receiver, at all, or it's a penalty. And they've just taken all the rules are catered to the offensive players, and you're going to put 2 of the best offensive players on the same team, maybe 2 of the best of all time on the same team. I don't see any way that doesn't work out. I don't see any way that anyone can stop them. Whether they win a Super Bowl or not is going to come down to how good their defense can be on the other side. But to me, their defense is okay enough that if you got Rodgers and Bell, you can probably win something.
I don't know. Their defense gave up 22 points in a quarter.
Yeah, it's not great. But again, the offense comes down. Ball control is a big thing. Fewer turnovers. Those things help your defense. Keeping them off the field. All those things can really help. I think that you have a chance to put together one of the greatest offenses the league has ever seen. And if you can put those two together, you'll have the best quarterback running back tandem since Warner and Falk.
Yeah, and that team lost to the Patriots.
And it also won a Super Bowl before that.
To the Patriots.
And it also won a Super Bowl. They went to 2 Super Bowls and they won one. So it worked. They won a Super Bowl. Like, everyone remembers the Patriots game. That's fine. Yes, they lost it. But they also won one. And by the way, they lost that game to the Patriots because they didn't give the ball to Marshall Faulk enough. Like, that's straight up. If he gets 10 more touches in that game, they would have won that game going away.
How do you consider that? For all you know, he could have fumbled.
You know what? Okay, first of all, Marshall Faulk wasn't a fumbler. Secondly, Secondly, again, you can throw it to him. You can run it. He's one of the 2,000 guys. And the Rams inexplicably ran him 17 times against the Patriots. And Warner threw, I think, 40 or 50 passes. They were only down 17-3. Like, you're not in a world of hurt there. But why isn't Marshall Faulk touching the ball? I mean, that was just Mike Martz, who was a terrible head coach, outsmarting himself. That's all that was. They should have won that game. They should have beaten the Patriots. They didn't give the ball to Marshall Faulk.
I'm just saying there's a lot more elite offenses who lose than elite defenses who lose.
Okay. Name me one team right now that has a quarterback, a top 3 quarterback in the league, and a top 3 running back. I can only think of one. And it's the Saints. It's Alvin Kamara and Drew Brees. That's the only team I can think of.
You put Kamara at top 3?
I mean, okay, if you don't want to think he's a top 3, if he's top 5 running back, but that's the only significant quarterback running back tandem I can think of with a running back that you're talking about, an elite quarterback and an elite running back. Like, the best of the best. Brees and Kamara, that's it. That's the list.
But if you got to shut down secondary, then it doesn't matter what's happening at the line.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you have an all-time great secondary, yeah. But how many all-time great secondaries have we seen without at least a stable pass rush? I mean, that's my point, is that, like, everything that would make Le'Veon Bell succeed is in place. Maybe a guy that you said you thought was the best quarterback of all time, which, by the way, is not outlandish, and I think that's totally fine. You're going to put Le'Veon Bell at no worse the second best running back in football. You're going to put him next to Aaron Rodgers and behind a ridiculously good offensive line with perimeter players stacked around it. There's no way, short of injury, that doesn't work out. There's just no way.
My only issue is to what degree? I mean, to what level?
Yeah. I think to a pretty high level. I feel like your Vikings fan is showing. I do, but which is fine because I don't think any Vikings fan is excited about the prospect of having to defend Le'Veon Bell and Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I know the Vikings last year defended Todd Gurley and
Jared Goff pretty well, yeah. But Jared Goff isn't Aaron Rodgers. Jared Goff is not Aaron Rodgers. I mean, let's be clear about that. That's what I'm saying. Like, pretty much every team has one or the other. Or they have, pretty good back, like Kareem Hunt. He's pretty good. I wouldn't call him elite. He's all right, but they got Pat Mahomes. They're all right. Yeah, I don't know how I'd call him elite either. He's been amazing, but it's only been 3 games. But, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, how many guys do you... I mean, I'll put it, the last time I even saw 2 players at the same time play at an elite level was your Vikings in 2009. It was when they had Favre and Peterson on the same team. Because Favre forgot he was Brett Favre and stopped throwing interceptions until the NFC Championship game anyway. He threw only 7 picks that year. He played an elite level, and they had Peterson. That's the last time I've seen. I can remember off the top of my head a quarterback and running back that were that good. There haven't been a whole lot of circumstances. Is my point.
Yeah, I just like defense. I'm biased.
I like defense too, but you got to score. You got to score some too. And the thing is, they're putting. The Packers are capable of throwing 40 up on anybody without Le'Veon Bell. with a one-dimensional offense that doesn't have a running game. If you add a dimension to that offense and make it one of the best running backs in football, that just creates a whole new thing.
Well, see, I hope they do trade and get them. I want them to give up 2 or 3 number 1 picks, sink their future, and then this whole Le'Veon Bell thing doesn't work out.
Look, dude, this is their future. Because look, here's the truth. Le'Veon Bell's a running back, okay, with an injury history. I don't know how many years you think he's got left in him, but law of averages says he's got 2 or 3 tops. That's law of averages, okay? Aaron Rodgers is in his mid-30s. I don't know. I mean, he might have more years left in him and probably does than a running back, but he's been hurt. He has had some significant injuries in his career. So if you're the Packers, why waste it? If you can get this guy, go get him. This is your chance because the future is now. And if you win a championship and 5 or 6 years down the road you may have to eat it, okay, then you have to eat it. But why are we thinking about 5 or 6 years down the road when they could be the best team in the NFC today?
Because no one likes the Packers.
Okay, there you go. That's what I wanted to hear. No one likes. Oh God! All right, so that was my whole thing. You want to do game picks?
Am I ready for that?
Okay, we want to talk.
Yeah, I'm ready for that.
Oh, you are ready for that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't know how I did last week. I meant to check my how I did, but I know it wasn't good.
Well, last week I was 8-8. I was surprised I did that well. I thought it was worse.
You went 8-8. Yeah, I could probably calculate it right now. I don't think our listeners want to hear it. I know head to head you did very well against me. One of those was the Seahawks-Cowboys game, which I knew the Seahawks were going to win, but I was trying to pick up a game on you.
Well, that didn't go well.
Yeah, it didn't go well at all. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to go well. But yeah, we had I'm not surprised that we had a rough week last week by either of us. I think what helped you out was you got the Pittsburgh-Tampa Bay game right, although I was feeling really good about that one in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they're surging. And then, no. I tell you what, Fitz put them up right off the bat. So Fitzpatrick, like we said, both of us actually said, he's coming back down to earth, and he did. And he gave the Steelers, what was it, 20-something nothing lead? Actually, I think it was the whole score.
It was 30-10 at one point.
At halftime, I think.
Right, yeah.
And then this Bucks are like, oh, shit, we're supposed to win. And then they started surging back, but just not enough time on the clock.
Ryan Fitzpatrick still threw for 400 yards again. 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. So obviously the 3 picks, as you mentioned, that stands out. That's what helped get them in that hole.
One of them was a 6, too.
Yeah, say what?
One of them was for 6, too.
Right, exactly. And so he helped dig them that hole. But, I mean, I got to ask you, though, because we asked the question last week. We're asking it now. They're 2-1. Winston suspension's over. Who do you think the quarterback should be in Tampa Bay?
I still think it should be Fitz. I mean, sometimes, even if a guy is 10% worse in skill, it's not worth 100% extra in drama.
You know what? Usually I would play off of that. I'm not going to. That's actually perfect. I completely 100% agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah, you said it perfectly. All right, let's do game picks. So we got game picks. So let's start with your Vikings at the Rams.
So scared. I'm so scared. It's just all going to depend on which team shows up. I mean, I always expect the Vikings to lose 1, maybe 2 horrible games that they really have no business losing. And like I said, I was going to wait for the Detroit game to make that shit pick. But apparently they decided last week was a good time. But I think there's still a dominant NFC team, and I think they can beat the Rams.
Yeah, I'll take the Rams. I will say this. One thing we're not going to do is I don't think we're going to have to pick spreads this week because we felt pretty good about like the Vikings against the Bills. We felt good about a lot of stuff. And it didn't work out that way. I don't think after last Sunday we have to pick spreads because apparently you can ask questions like who's going to win, Jets or Jaguars? And apparently that's a legitimate question. Because if the Bills can not only beat the Vikings but, spank them in Minnesota, then, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
Bills essentially won 27-0. Vikings got garbage time points. It was terrible.
And the Bills aren't close to being that good. I don't think the Vikings are close to being that bad. So we probably won't have any spread picks this week because of how weird last Sunday was. Jets at Jaguars.
Jags.
Yeah, no argument there. All right.
Fournette should be back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Fournette will be back too. So that's a big one. Dolphins at Patriots.
I almost picked the Dolphins. I thought about it really hard, but I gotta believe the Pats are just 18 levels of pissed off, and they're just gonna unleash.
Yeah, I feel like if I pick the Patriots and I'm wrong, I will be fine with it because I will know that I have a lot of years of everyone saying the Patriots are done and they come back and go on a roll. I have a lot of years to fall back on where they proved everyone wrong after looking terrible. And if this is the year they actually aren't the Patriots, fine. I'll be the last one off the wagon. I don't care. I'm with you. I'll take the Patriots. Eagles at Titans. Look, Tennessee's 2-1. They're at home. They're off to a good start.
No, they beat a Jags team that has Blake Bortles and no Fournette as their offense. So,
and a winless Texans team.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and stick with the Eagles.
I will also agree. I will take the Eagles. Texans at Colts.
You know what, Texans? You can suck it, all right? I picked you 3 times. You screwed me every time. Picking the damn Colts. And if you win this week, then screw you all to hell because I don't know what's going on. But I'm going to try the Colts just to see.
Indianapolis has historically been a house of horrors for the Texans. They have not had a whole lot of success there. I think they've won once or twice. It's a number I could look up, but let's face it. You and me and our listeners aren't looking for exact stats, right? If they are, you guys can hit me up on Twitter. I'll find an exact stat for you. But the Texans have problems in Indianapolis, and I have no reason to pick them right now. So I'll take the Colts. So I'm officially jumping off the bandwagon. The Texans aren't going to the Super Bowl this year. I think I feel pretty safe about that. All right. Well, this is a game that apparently we have to pick now. Bills at Packers.
I'm going to assume that the Packers will win, and hopefully Clay Matthews will not get another roughing the passer because Peters loves to rush, so technically it's no longer a quarterback, so he can hit him as much as he wants. So I gotta believe that'll help the Packers.
Who are you talking about?
Peters. Yeah.
Peter? Or you mean the Bills? The Bills?
Yeah.
Oh, Peter. Oh no, he's Josh Allen these days, buddy. I don't blame you for not knowing that because they're the Bills and no one cares about the Bills. But I will also take the Packers. I just don't think there's any. Well, first of all, I think that what happened to Minnesota is going to be plenty of reason by itself for the Packers to not sleep on them, and they're also coming off a loss and they're at home and they need a win. So there you go. Lions at Cowboys.
Cowboys, man. I honestly had them as right on the fringe of a wild card team, but their offense just is not doing anything. I think the Lions are going to take it even in Dallas.
Yeah, I think so too. And a lot of people are hating on Dak Prescott. I'll tell you what, I am absolutely not one of those guys. I don't know what people expect Dak Prescott to do. His best receiver is Cole Beasley. a 5'10" white guy, like his best receiver.
Yeah, they should like go to the Costco or try to find someone there.
I think that, like, for the Cowboys, the Patriots paid a 5th-round pick for Josh Gordon. You couldn't have paid a 4th, given the guy someone to throw the ball to. Like, he doesn't even have a safety valve. Like, at least Tony Romo, when he was in trouble, had Jason Witten, and Witten retired. Dak didn't even have that.
Well, I think the Cowboys were just worried about there being another drug-ridden receiver on their team. They're like, oh, we've dealt with that before, so maybe that's why.
Yeah. Another drug-ridden receiver, pretty good too. I don't know. The Cowboys are terrible.
What's he played, like 6 games in the past 5 years?
Which
Gordon?
Oh, Josh Gordon. Yeah, he hasn't played many. he has missed quite a few. Yeah, and he's one of the most talented guys in the league. But yeah, he's had some issues. He really likes the weed.
Really reminds me of Ricky Williams quite a bit. He's like 2,000-yard rusher and suspended all the time after that.
I'll say this though. Like the NFL's drug policy is ridiculous for the hits that these guys take and the toll that it takes on their bodies. For marijuana to be illegal, especially when it's been legalized in some form in so many states, is absolutely insane to me that they can't let the guy, like, who cares if a guy rolls up a joint? That's not the same thing as domestic violence and stuff like that. It's just not the same. Like, I just don't group Josh Gordon with those other quote unquote troubled receivers. I just don't. All right, Bucks at Bears. That's a fairly interesting game.
I think so too. But I think as hot as Khalil Mack has made this Bears defense, like, he's the Ray Lewis to the Ravens defense. Like, he just fires them up and gets them playing at a higher level, all of them. I think the Bears at home will show Fitzpatrick what's up.
The Raiders, 3 sacks and a forced fumble as a team. Khalil Mack's got 3 sacks and a forced fumble by himself.
Yep.
I picked him to be the defensive player of the year on general principle because I thought he would want to stick it to the Raiders, and I feel really good about that, and I will take the Bears at home. But that is an interesting game, and I think that's definitely one I'm interested to watch. We've got another really good game, and one you could argue is the best game of the day. Bengals at Falcons.
Yeah, this one I thought about a lot. The only thing that made me sway one way or the other was the fact the Falcons got about half their defense injured right now, and Devontae Freeman. So I went with the Bengals.
Yeah, when I think about the Falcons at home, especially watching Matt Ryan just threw 5 touchdowns, I mean, he looked great. And that gives me pause because that offense. And by the way, Calvin Ridley, they drafted a receiver first round. That guy was out. He is outstanding. That was a good pick, especially playing next to Julio Jones. That couldn't have worked out much better. Calvin Ridley's a monster. He had 3 touchdowns last week. But I agree with you. I think the Bengals. I don't think the Falcons are dealing with the same defense as they were dealing with last week. And I don't know that they have enough on defense to slow down Andy Dalton. And I think we could see a shootout. And I think Ryan plays well again. But I think the Bengals eke it out. I agree with you. This would have been a great game 3 years ago. Not so much anymore. Seahawks at Cardinals.
Depends which week 3 years ago. Was it the injury week or not injury week?
Exactly, yeah. The Cardinals had some of the worst luck of an NFL team, didn't they? Like, I mean, they had that 1 year they got really hot and then they missed the playoffs. I think they won 7 out of 8 and missed the playoffs with 10 wins. And they might have ended up winning the Super Bowl of hotness, and then a year later, everyone gets hurt. Like they clinched the division, and everyone on their team ends up on IR. They had some really rough luck in there for a few years.
Cardinals have no offense. They had Bradford last week, who threw 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. He looks like he's actually fighting for his job, and then in the second half, throws 2 picks and fumbles. Like, I don't know why he was trying to scramble, but that clearly looked inappropriate, and he fumbled for it. So, I mean, the Seahawks can clearly take advantage of... I mean, granted, it's not going to be Bradford this week, but still. They're going to take advantage of a rookie QB instead.
I'll tell you one thing. I really like this rookie quarterback class, man. I mean, Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, tangible talent. Even Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen was honestly probably the least impressive, and I know that they beat the Vikings, but like you saw that game. Josh Allen wasn't the guy picking them apart. A couple of fumbles by Cousins early, the thing got out of hand, and the kid just was asked not to do a lot. He ran a lot. He's a good athlete. I don't know what I think of Josh Allen. I do like Josh Rosen. I'll take the Seahawks. I can see a scenario where the Cardinals win that game. I just think that Sam Bradford's terrible. There's no way that this is not an upgraded quarterback. There's just no way. Honestly, there's no way Josh Rosen is worse than Sam Bradford. There's just no way.
He's a lot cheaper, that's for sure.
Exactly. He's a lot cheaper. He's younger. Honestly, I think they should have done this after the second week. So I really think the Cardinals, especially played the Bears really tough. I'm almost talking myself into this.
Is he going to go for it? Can he do it?
Yeah, screw it. I'll take the Cardinals. Fine.
All right. You're taking the whole team.
Yeah, I think I talked myself into that one. I mean, I don't know how well it'll work out because the Seahawks have Bobby Wagner and the Cardinals are bad, but I don't know. I'll take the Cardinals. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Speaking of, did you see they're trying to trade away Earl Thomas? Or that was in talks at least?
Yeah, to the Cowboys was an interesting thing. And I think the Cowboys could really use that. The one thing the Cowboys have that could be their saving grace is they have a really good defense. And if you add, and that's right now, they have an excellent defense. And if you add Earl Thomas to that secondary, I'm not saying that you're suddenly a playoff team or anything, or you've got the 2013 Seahawks or 15 Broncos or something like that, but you definitely will change a lot of your fortunes by having a defense like that with him.
Although Lee's supposed to be hurt, right?
Yeah, Lee's hurt, and that's kind of a given. But that's why I liked it when they took Van Der Esch. The Cowboys knew that they needed a linebacker in the draft, and because you can't have that defense go to hell every time Sean Lee's hurt. So we'll see about that. But I think the Cowboys, if they can make that move for Earl Thomas, they should go for it. Especially if it's going to cost you, a couple of seconds or a couple of thirds or what. Who are you going to get that's Earl Thomas? The guy's still got a lot of football left in him too. Yeah. Browns at the Raiders.
I think since Mayfield did what he did, it's no longer a shocker. And I'm thinking, ideally, Gruden doesn't have his head too far buried up his ass and will actually look at the tape. And I think the Raiders will beat the Browns.
Okay, I'm just going to... Okay. About John Gruden having his head up his ass, okay? Last week, this is the same John Gruden that said, it's really hard to find a good pass rusher in the NFL. Oh, really? You had one. You had one of the best, and you traded him. You didn't even sit down and meet with the guy. I'll take the Browns. The Browns are on I think the Browns will be on a winning streak after this.
2? Yeah.
Dude. When's the last time they won back-to-back games? I'm not kidding you. When is seriously, I don't know that. I would like to know. I'm going to look that up right now. We got enough time in this show. I can do that. Let's see. That's a good thing. Last time Browns won back-to-back games. It came right away.
1989.
Okay, hold on. Okay. All right. Okay, this is taking a little bit longer than I thought.
Google can't find it.
Google, yeah. Yeah, I thought. Okay, I don't know when the last time. Yeah, it is taking too long, and we're going to be stuck here. I don't know when the last time the Browns won back-to-back games is. I do know for a fact because they went 1-31 in the previous 2 seasons prior to this year that it hasn't been in the last couple of years. Think about that. It's been bare minimum no earlier than 2015 that they've won back-to-back games. That's pretty sad. That's pretty sorry. And I don't know if they won back-to-back in 2015. But I think they'll win. I think they're going to win. And I think they'll be on a winning streak. Okay, so I digress. So here we go. We got a few more games to pick. Saints at the Giants.
I think the Saints are over their early week hump, or early season hump, rather, and they will be the Saints of old and will start dominating again. Plus, the Giants suck. So
I can see a scenario where they run the hell out of Saquon Barkley and keep Drew Brees off the field. That Saints defense is not very good
I think they
at
bounce
all.
back.
You think so?
I think the Saints, because they're finally over that early season thing that they always suck. Now they're going to start going on a roll.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of hard to flip the switch the way they've been playing. I think that their issues are more than just being able to flip the switch. They are not very good defensively. But I don't like the Giants, so yeah, I'll take the Saints. But I really can see a scenario where the Giants win that game, but I'll take the Saints. 49ers at the Chargers.
Yeah, 49ers lost so many millions of dollars.
That Jimmy Garoppolo, man, that's tough. When's the last time you saw? I was thinking about that. When's the last time we saw a team like fork out, cash like that for a quarterback? Draft picks, cash, and then it doesn't work out. And I think the last time I can remember, it might have happened since then. But Trent Green is the last one I can remember when the Rams went and got Trent Green and he ripped his ACL in the preseason. They paid him all that money and he ripped his ACL in the preseason. And then Dick Vermeil's like crying in a press conference. I mean, a lot of people forget Trent Green because the guy who came in and filled in for him was Kurt Warner. So it worked out okay for him. But I can't remember the last time a team forked out that kind of cash for a quarterback and the guy got hurt right away. It's been a while. I don't know if you can remember it. It's been a long time.
I think Bradford's entire career.
I guess, yeah. Bradford, yeah. I mean, that's definitely one up there. But I think about I don't know. I talk about guys that were brought in to be your savior. Trent Green was brought in to save the Rams. He didn't, but he did actually end up having a decent little run with the Rams, and it got him a starting gig in Kansas City, where he was pretty good. I just don't see. I can't think of a whole lot of quarterbacks had the situation. I feel bad for Jimmy G, but yeah, Chargers.
Yeah.
Although it should be noted the Chargers are terrible at home. Not that that's going to matter on Sunday, but they are terrible at home because they don't really have one. Sunday Night Football. This game always manages to be entertaining no matter who's good, who's bad, or whatever. Ravens and Steelers.
I think the Steelers are going to come out firing. They're going to throw up 40 points. Ravens will not have enough answers, even though they will do plenty against them.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh too. I do. At home, and especially because they're just such a different team at home. Arch rivals. It's not going to be pretty, but yeah, I agree with you. I love the Steelers. Monday Night Football. Chiefs at the Broncos.
Chiefs are going to demolish them.
You know what, man? I can see a scenario where the Broncos win. They've got a couple of good edge rushers that can get to Mahomes and not let him sit back there and pick him apart. They're in Denver. The Broncos defense, or the Chiefs defense, can't stop anybody. The Broncos have got, at the very least, have a stable of running backs that can try and control the clock.
Keenum threw 0 touchdowns last week.
He did. He was also on the road against a really good defense. Now he's at home against a not good defense.
Man.
But I'm not going to pick against Pat Mahomes. I'm not. But again, it's just like that Giants game. I can see a scenario where the Broncos win this game. I really can. But I don't have enough. That's all speculation. And what I've seen and what I know is Pat Mahomes right now is off his rocker. He's the MVP of the league, far and away. He's the MVP right now.
Yeah, 13 touchdowns, no picks, 80 million yards. I'd say
right. Today he's the MVP of the league. Now, 3 weeks in the league, 3 weeks in, that's not really saying a whole lot. But yeah, right now he's the MVP of the league. I'll tell you, man, we're kind of getting back to that whole thing where, the second-year quarterbacks are starting to jump off the charts at people. I mean, look at Jared Goff and Carson Wentz last year. Look at Patrick Mahomes this year. We had some really insane performances by some second-year quarterbacks. It used to take a lot longer. It used to be that it'd take 3 or 4 years to make quarterback, and the way that these guys are playing right now, it's pretty incredible. All right, so that's what we've got there. Those are all of our game picks. Nothing really super insane there in that regard. But yeah, this was definitely an odd week this past Sunday, but I'm looking forward to another one. Now, be honest. What percentage of you? How nervous are you about this game tomorrow?
Vikings, I'm 100% nervous. I mean, even before a few days ago, I was 100% nervous. I see the Rams in a very high regard. They were really good last year. They added a couple very key pieces to their defense, and they have not shown any signs of slowing down to anybody. And I remember you said last week, you're like, well, let's see how they do against the Chargers. I was like, yeah, well, they spanked their monkey. So,
really, is that what they did? That's what they did.
Yeah, frontward and backwards.
Okay.
And upside down a little, just kind of like, but
yeah. I'll tell you this much, because we're going to talk a little bit about spreads. But I know we didn't pick the spreads, but the Bills, despite beating the Vikings the way they beat them, are still 10.5-point underdogs to the Packers on the road, which tells you everything you need to know about what people think about the Bills. And that they would be double-digit road dogs a week after a 3-touchdown win, and really a 4-touchdown win, as you mentioned, because that was a garbage time touchdown. But the Rams are 7-point favorites against the Vikings, and I will tell you, I think the Vikings at least cover. I feel like they're going to play a lot better.
I don't argue with that, and I mean, I think either team could win. I mean, it's one of those games where whoever's playing better is going to win, because both those teams are talented as hell. They both have a quarterback. They both have a running back. They both have defenses at all levels. I mean, who's just going to happen to play better that day?
Right. I mean, obviously, the Vikings don't have a Todd Gurley, but the Rams don't have a Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen either. Brandon Cooks, though, I'll tell you one thing: that guy's had himself a hell of a year. He has really enjoyed the Sean McVay offense. Sean McVay just does a good job as a head coach. I mean, he really just gets guys going. But no, I think there's a good chance the Vikings cover. I feel pretty safe taking the Vikings as far as covering. Now, I mean, I say that, so they'll probably lose 38-0. But I mean,
if that happens, I'll bury my foot inside your ass. So
yeah, that'd be interesting. Well, okay, well, you have to go quite a ways to pull that one off. You're out in freaking Arizona, this desert that people live in for some freaking reason.
Any excuse to leave the heat.
To leave the heat?
Yeah.
You're in Phoenix. There's no leaving the heat.
Yeah, it is if I start walking east.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I really want to see if we have any carryover from last Sunday to this one. I mean, because it wouldn't shock me if the Lions lost the Cowboys, not because the Cowboys are good, but the Lions are bad. That really wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I don't know what that game was like, because both these teams have shown to be horrible. That one I was like, well, most recently the Lions look good. I was like, all right.
That's the thing. I don't think the Lions are really that good. But again, I wonder about the Patriots. I wonder how good they are this year. I mean, just because they've been good doesn't mean they are good. But again, I'm not going to jump. I'll tell you one thing: if the Dolphins are 4-0, they're going to start getting some attention. And again, I still don't know how good they are. Their wins would, because if they beat New England and New England's 1-3, then their wins would be Tennessee, the Jets, the Raiders, and the and a bad Patriots team, if that's the case, right? it doesn't really inspire much long-term confidence, except for the fact that they play in the AFC East and who's going to catch them,
Yeah, that division's awful.
Right, exactly. If the Patriots are down, the division's is entirely a joke. So I have a question for you, and this is just something that kind of hit me. And I meant to ask you this last week. Who's your favorite player that you've ever watched that was never associated? It was never a part of your team ever, at any point.
In football?
In football, who's the best? Who's your favorite player that you enjoy watching that was never a Viking?
Probably Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis?
Yeah, he's a lot of fun.
For me, it probably is a Viking. It's Adrian Peterson. Ray Lewis would also be up there for me too. You and I have a big old thing on Ray Lewis. Adrian Peterson for me is way up there. Tomlinson, guys like that. But probably Adrian Peterson for me.
Speaking of, did you see that play on the Pittsburgh? I don't remember his name. The tight end. Or he just straight up Peterson that dude. He threw him backwards and out of bounds.
Oh yeah, Vance McDonald. Vance McDonald, a Rice University graduate.
Oh my god, that was great.
Yeah, down here. He's from Houston. Yeah, he played at Rice University. That dude, I didn't even know he was on the Steelers. I thought he was still in San Francisco. He's like punching people out on his way to the end zone. Like, that was something. That was definitely one of the better plays of the entire weekend. That was a trip. They saved the best for last on that one. That was definitely something to watch. Also, I wanted to make mention of this. For those of you, I meant to talk about this last week. I'm a week late on this, but whatever. The Rams, because of injuries, had to sign a new kicker. They have a field goal kicker named Sam Ficken. If anybody wonders why I noticed that and why that matters, Google it. Just Google it, just his last name. Just his last name. Just Google it. And you'll see why it's hysterical that the Rams have a guy with that name. It really.
Is he German?
Oh, yeah. If you speak German, I'm just saying, man, this is something. I fully endorse the Rams having this kicker. I hope that he stays there forever. Especially because if he misses a kick, everyone in the crowd could just yell his last name and it serves a dual purpose. Anyway, that's all I got. I love that stuff. But anyway, Goods. Good luck this week with your Vikings. We'll have to talk about this. Maybe we'll have a mini show after this. We'll see if you're still feeling very good about your Vikings potential Super Bowl prospects after Thursday.
Either way, I'll be curled up in the ball. One reason or another. I don't know. Crying, laughing, sleeping.
All three at once. All three at once, crying and laughing in your sleep. The Rams will do that to a lot of people. They look great right now, and that's to their credit. So we'll see. But anyway, fun week of football ahead, and we'll talk more about it next week. He's Goods. I'm Danny. That's our show. It's Leading with the Helmet. We're out, guys.
Later.